Hello and happy Passover. My name is Jordan Finken. I'm the Rare Book and Manuscript Librarian here at the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati, the Klau Library. I am going to take you on a little tour today through some of the treasures of our Haggadah collection. Now, the Haggadah we are all familiar with. I can think of no other more storied text, literally and figuratively, in the Jewish tradition. The Haggadah is also one of the two ritual texts that are permitted to be illustrated and decorated. As a result, huge amounts of Jewish artistic creativity get poured into those texts. And as you'll see, the Klau Library holds some exemplary, beautiful examples of this tradition. So, the first text that I'm going to be talking about today is our first Cincinnati Haggadah. Now, important manuscripts are often named not by where they were produced, but where they come to live. And the Cincinnati, the Klau Library, holds two Cincinnati Haggadahs. They're very significant texts. And the first Cincinnati Haggadah, was produced in Heidelberg in Germany sometime in the late 15th century, roughly 1490. And it was produced by a scribe named Meyer Jaffe. And as you will see, he spared no effort or expense in the production of this manuscript, which is produced on parchment. And you will see instantly why it is such a remarkable text. A beautiful example of medieval European manuscript decoration and illumination. The colors are rich and vibrant and very unusual, actually, for medieval Haggadahs. In this one, every page has a unique decorated border, probably added sometime later, but roughly contemporary to the book's production. Here you'll see a traditional image of the search for chametz, the search for leavening, a man with a feather in a bowl. Now, one would ask why this beautiful piece of furniture is situated out on the lawn. Well, to get rid of chametz, traditionally one burns it, but in medieval cities that was a big no-no. You don't want the city to go up in flames. So you take it to the edge of your property, you throw it away, and you declare it ownerless. It's not mine anymore. But of course, if you are throwing away crumbs in the field, who is going to be surrounding it but the birds have come in to get their pre-Passover feast. I will take you to probably our favorite image here in the library. Now this image is from the moment in the Haggadah that if the Passover should fall on a Saturday night, one needs to conclude the Sabbath and begin the festival. To do that, you need to say 5 prayers in a certain order, and they are Yain, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah, Zman. Now, Jews love acronyms, and you'll see the acronym here. The first letter of each of the words of the names of the prayers are here, and they spell Yaknahaz, which doesn't mean anything. It's just the names of the initials of the prayers. But in German, remember this is produced in Heidelberg, in German, Yaknahaz sounds like Jagdinhase, which means to hunt the hare. So it's a pun, a visual pun, a mnemonic device. Of course, this kind of hunt is not necessarily a Jewish occupation, nor does one generally hunt a hare with a boar spear. So the artist is clearly having some fun and enjoyment with that idea. Now, what's interesting about these medieval texts, there are a large number of medieval illuminated Haggadahs. Many of them have similar images. For certain parts of the Seder, including in the German world, this hare hunt image. Now, once printing comes in, these images often get set as fixtures of the text. I call them furnitures of the text, such that you can't imagine the text without them. Sometimes you'll even have the image without the Hebrew, right? Because It's obvious to everyone Yaknahaz means this number of prayers. Let's move further on to, well, I will note here the birds, they keep flying through the text. Let's go to the 4 sons. Everyone's familiar with that portion of the service. Now here, as it is a medieval European manuscript, who would the wise man be but this clerical figure seated on his throne in a very ecclesiastical type setting? Here is the evil son, and of course the evilest has to be, as you see with the sword, a soldier. Here is the simple son, looking quite simple indeed, and the one who has no capacity to inquire. Now this fellow has so little capacity to inquire that the words literally have to be forced into his mouth, into this jester type figure. So, I think it's time to move on to our next Haggadah. Now, as I said before, when printing comes in, many of these images get set. But it's the manuscript tradition that informs the print tradition. But as time moves on and print becomes much more popular and ingrained in the culture, it's the print tradition that begins to inform the manuscript tradition. This, again, is the second Cincinnati Haggadah. It was produced in 1716 by Moshe Leib ben Wolf of Trebich. This was to be followed by a very famous Haggadah that he produced, the Van Gelder Haggadah, which should be recognizable to anyone from the Heinrich Heine's poem, The Rabbi of Bacharach. Heine's mother was from the Van Geldern family. Now you'll see immediately the influence of print tradition now on a deluxe manuscript. Here you see it looks almost exactly like a title page of a printed book, with the architectural motif, with Moses and Aaron flanking the title, which is a very common motif, and the publication information, which has moved from the back of the book in traditional manuscript form to the front of the book. Now here you will see again a recycling of the Search for Chametz image in this lovely little decorative heading. But here is perhaps the most famous image from this Haggadah. Now it is a lovely scene of early 18th century Dutch patrician family. What's interesting is they are, of course, seated at the Seder table. But there's one thing that seems to be missing from this image. And that is, we see the archway, we see the parquet floor in front, we see the decorative proscenium. There are no Haggadahs in this image. Nobody in the picture has a Haggadah, because this is a theater scene, and actors don't have their scripts with them when they act out the drama. One other interesting image is that the painting, there's many interesting things I should say about what's going on in this book. One interesting image is this image here, a painting on the wall of this patrician family. It's hard to see, but this is a figure of Elijah and the ravens, Elijah being fed by the ravens in the wilderness. We will see some Elijah imagery in another of our Haggadahs. Now, I will turn a little bit further on to the 4 sons. Now, in this image of the 4 sons, the Chacham, the wise son, the evil son who is always a soldier, the simpleton, and the one who cannot inquire, is this is a clear reproduction of earlier printed Haggadah images from the first printed Haggadahs in Amsterdam. So this is truly a deluxe edition, a luxury piece, and a very, very fantastic Haggadah at that. Now we'll turn finally to what is one of the most interesting and most unusual Haggadahs in our collection. This was a Haggadah produced by Yaakov ben Yosef Corneliano in Italy, in the north of Italy, in 1742. It is, you will see instantly why. Here we have a title page with zodiac motifs, but here it is absolutely chock full of naive folk art imagery, and it is not an inch of space isn't decorated with sometimes fanciful, sometimes just wild kinds of images. Now, the Corneliano family was a wealthy family, and though Jews were not ennobled, they were given certain privileges. And here you see what we'll call the Corneliano Crest, which, as our former library director David Gilner likes to refer to it as, squirrel rampant on field of talus. And of course, a cornelio is a rabbit, so there is a kind of small furry animal motif that seems to be enjoyed in this Haggadah. Now here, again, this is, it draws off of the manuscript traditions and the printed book traditions, but it does so in a very, very fanciful way. Here, for example, is the search for chametz. He has the bowl and the feather here, but there's a little boy underneath him also looking for the chametz in a what seems to be a nice family tradition. Now here, out on the lawn, all the women are out baking the matzah. And as I said before, we cannot imagine, very often cannot imagine a Haggadah without a hare hunt. Here is our hare hunt. Here's the hare running away, the dogs, and the man on horseback, this time with a trumpet. Let's turn further on to the... You will see also, I will say, that the letters are historiated, or they are decorated inside with all kinds of fanciful images and shapes. Here is our image of the four sons. So the wise son, of course, here, looking rather more like a scholar than an ecclesiastic. Here, the evil son, again, a soldier. You can see his sword. Here's the simpleton, who can't seem to be able to figure out the words of the text. And the one who has no capacity to inquire seems to be a kind of wild man of the woods here. So that is, as I like to say, these are just wild images going on in this text. I will just flip through a few more pages again to give you a sense of the just the remarkable artwork and imagery in this text. But I will move to the final page, which reprises the Elijah imagery, but here it is the entrance into the city with Elijah heralding the Messiah, which is a nice, hopeful way to end, a hopeful note to end in these troubled times. But I wish you all nothing but a Zis and Pesach, happiness and health. Thank you.